I saw her take the gun. Right there, behind my mansion, captured by the night vision security camera. My maid, Serena, met with a bearded man in a hoodie. He reached into his coat, pulled out a pistol, and slid it into the cloth bag she clutched against her chest. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, not because of the gun, but because of the way she looked at him. A slow nod, a silent agreement. And as she bent forward, her headscarf slipped just enough to reveal a small tattoo at the base of her neck, Arabic script I couldn't read. Why the hell would a Muslim housemaid need a gun? My name is Eli Marcus, 42, Jewish, CEO of Marcus Estate Holdings, a luxury real estate firm based in California. Born in Brooklyn to a conservative Jewish family, I built my empire from scratch, brick by bloody brick. I control everything, everyone. No one outsmarts me, especially not a housemaid. Serena came to work for me about 8 months ago, hired through an agency that brings in immigrant domestic workers. Her background seemed clean. Studied university in Tehran, dropped out when her father died. She kept to herself, barely spoke, always respectful, always on time, and she had this way of washing my wine glasses like they were relics from a forgotten dynasty. But she was intoxicating. Jet black eyes that watched everything, smooth honey brown skin, a body that moved like silk being pulled across marble. Not voluptuous, but defiantly sensual. I used to wonder, was all that submissiveness just an act? Now I knew. I'd been played. The questions hit me fast. What was the gun for? Who was she planning to use it on? Did she know about the cameras? I pushed away from the monitor, still in my silk pajamas, sweat beating down my spine. It was 2:13 a.m. My bedroom sat just a few hundred feet from the rear storage shed. I stood there, frozen, my heart hammering. Should I call the police? Fire her in the morning? Confront her now? No. I decided to keep watching. Next morning, I acted like nothing happened. At exactly 6:58 a.m., Serena entered the mansion like she always did. Beige, long-sleeve shirt, dark scarf wrapped tightly, head slightly bowed. She greeted me in that soft, sugar-dipped voice. "Good morning, sir. I'll get breakfast started." I stared at her over the rim of my espresso cup. The images from last night burned into my brain. Her hands receiving the gun, that cold glance, the tattoo. And now she was peeling oranges for me with surgeon-like care. Did she think I was stupid, or was she taunting me? She bent down to pick up an orange peel that had fallen to the floor. Her sleeve slid up a little, exposing a sliver of her arm and a faint bruise. Not just a bump, a grip mark. Fingers. I raised an eyebrow. "What happened to your arm?" She glanced at it like it was nothing. "Oh, I bumped into the kitchen door last night. Too smooth. Too fast." I didn't believe her for a second. Why would a maid need a gun? Why the bruises? Who was she meeting out there? I got no answers, just a tight smile and lowered eyes. But I swore I'd get to the bottom of it. That afternoon, I entered her room myself, a small guest room in the back wing, right next to the storage shed, just big enough for a twin bed and a vanity. Everything was tidy. A faint scent of rosewater hung in the air. I started searching drawers, neatly folded linens, closet, nothing suspicious. But in the top drawer of her nightstand, tucked between pages of a Farsi language book, I found a photograph. My breath caught. In the photo, a man stood amid ruins, some bombed-out neighborhood. His face was weathered, proud, eyes full of fury. I recognized him. It took me a few seconds, but then it clicked. Hassan Ardashir. He sued my company 15 years ago during my first overseas development project in the Middle East. I buried that lawsuit. Crushed it. Some witnesses disappeared. Conveniently. But what was this photo doing in Serena's drawer? The photo had a corner cut out, deliberately, right where a woman and child had stood next to him. Why cut that part? Who was in that cropped out corner? I scanned the photo using facial recognition software on my phone. Within minutes, results flashed back. Hassan Ardashir, confirmed dead in an unsolved explosion. Wife and daughter missing. Daughter? A sick chill crept down my spine. Who the hell is Serena? Was she just a maid? Or the ghost of a man I destroyed? Was she here for revenge? I checked the time, 4:37 p.m. She was upstairs, changing linens. She didn't know I was looking through her things. Or did she? Did she plant that photo? I glanced out the back window. No sign of the man from last night, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Was I still in control, or had I already been caught in her game? Second set of hidden cameras the next night. Higher quality, infrared audio enabled. If she was hiding something, I needed eyes everywhere. What was she planning with that gun? Who was the man who gave it to her? And most of all, why me? That night, she returned late. I watched from my study window as she walked up the long driveway, her figure moving like a whisper beneath the yellow porch light. She was still in her modest beige outfit, scarf snug around her face, but something was off. Her walk was different, more confident, almost predatory. I tracked her to the laundry room. She stayed there longer than usual. I fast forwarded the camera feed. That's when I saw it. She undressed, right in front of the dryer, like she knew the cameras weren't pointed there, only they were now. Her blouse dropped first, revealing smooth brown skin, tight and toned. Then the black lace bra, expensive, not something a maid could afford. Her breasts were firm, high, goddamn perfect. She leaned over the dryer, her back arching just enough to send a jolt down my spine. Then she slowly pulled off her skirt. No underwear. My pulse spiked. I should have looked away, but I didn't. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a weapon, a trap, and I was already caught. Why undress there? Why that night? I scanned her clothes before she tossed them into the washer. In the inner lining of her skirt, barely visible, a tiny slit, maybe for hiding something small and flat. I felt blood rush to my head. I'd seen that trick before. Smugglers used it in Tel Aviv. Was she transporting something? After the wash, she walked back upstairs like nothing happened. I didn't sleep. I lay awake in my king-sized bed, the video replaying in my head, her body, the tattoo, the slit in her skirt. I couldn't tell what aroused me more, the mystery or the danger. Morning came, and I played it cool again. She brought my coffee and croissants at exactly 7:02 a.m., kissed with just a hint of rosewater and cinnamon. Anything else, Mr. Marcus? Her voice was silky, low, and just a little too suggestive. I leaned back, studied her face. Where do you go on your nights off, Serena? She paused. To the mosque, or sometimes the library. Funny, I didn't know they handed out handguns at either. For the first time, she looked at me, not through me. Her eyes didn't flinch. She blinked once, then tilted her head slightly. Are you watching me, Mr. Marcus? I smiled, sipping my espresso. Should I be? She didn't answer, just gave the faintest of smirks before turning and walking away. What the hell was that smirk? Did she know I saw the gun? Was she taunting me again? Later that day, I had my security guy, Joseph, pull every frame of external footage from the past month. He was an ex-Mossad analyst, sharp, paranoid, my kind of guy. By noon, he was pale. This man she met, he's been here before, at least 4 times. Different entrances, sometimes dressed as a delivery guy, once as a priest. She always meets him alone, usually near the utility shed. Who the hell is he? I asked. He pulled up a freeze frame. I froze. It was Navid Rami, former intelligence officer, Iranian Revolutionary Guard, a man who disappeared off the grid 12 years ago, last seen in Mexico, wanted by both the CIA and MI6, and he was meeting my maid. I swallowed hard. She's not a maid, Joseph said softly. She's either bait or backup. Backup for what? But Joseph just looked at me like I already knew. That night, I drank whiskey in the study while Serena dusted the grand piano behind me. She didn't say a word, but I could feel her watching me through the mirror's reflection. Her eyes weren't timid anymore. They were hunting. I pretended to read, then said, "You ever shoot a gun, Serena?" Silence. Then she replied, "Only when it matters." I turned slowly, locking eyes with her. "You planning on it mattering soon?" She stepped closer. "Maybe." I stood up. The air crackled. She was only a foot away, the scent of her skin, something floral and dangerously sweet, pulling me in. "I think you're hiding something," I said. "I think you like it." Her voice was velvet. She leaned in, just enough to whisper against my neck. "You've been watching me less, haven't you, Mr. Marcus?" I didn't deny it. Her fingers grazed my chest, then stopped. "I wonder," she murmured, "what you think you'll find." Then she turned and left, hips swaying like a dare. What the fuck was she playing at? And why was I falling into it so easily? Word count. I started dreaming about her, not in fleeting images or half-thought desires. No, these dreams were vivid, invasive, carnal. Serena, naked in my bed, eyes dark with purpose, straddling me like she owned me. Her hands pressing down on my chest, her hair trailing across my face like silk dipped in poison. In the dreams, she always whispered something in Farsi. I never understood the words, but I'd wake up drenched in sweat, hard as steel, gasping like I'd just survived an execution. It wasn't just lust anymore, it was obsession. But obsession makes men stupid, and I'd never been stupid. So why was I still letting her stay? Because part of me wanted to know how far she'd go, and the other part wanted to see what she'd do to me once she no longer had to pretend. That week, I began breaking my own rules. I gave her more access, trusted her with errands that put her alone in my private study. Let her handle packages, serve drinks during board meetings, move freely throughout the estate. My staff noticed, but said nothing. No one questions Eli Marcus, except Serena. One night, after a fundraiser at the Four Seasons, I returned home late, a little drunk. She was still up, lighting candles in the hallway, humming something soft and slow in Persian. "You always work this late?" I asked, tossing my keys onto the marble counter. She turned, candlelight flickering in her eyes. "Only when the night feels heavy." I stepped closer. "You ever wonder what makes the night heavy?" She didn't blink. Men with power, secrets that burn, lust with nowhere to go. I swallowed, hard. She walked past me slowly, letting her arm graze mine. The friction was electric. Then she paused, turned slightly. "You look tense, Mr. Marcus. Would you like me to help you unwind?" I should have said no, but I didn't. I followed her into the guest lounge. She dimmed the lights, poured a glass of wine, handed it to me, then knelt down, right in front of me. "I know how to serve many ways," she said, voice low, hypnotic. She undid my belt with deliberate grace. Her lips brushed my stomach, and then she stopped, smiling. "I like watching powerful men squirm," she whispered. I grabbed her chin. "You want to play with fire?" She leaned in until her breath kissed my lips. "Only if I get to burn with it." We kissed, rough, messy, like war disguised as desire. Her body was fire wrapped in velvet. I stripped her slowly, discovering the terrain of her skin like a man digging for buried treasure. That tattoo on her spine, it wasn't random. It was a name. Babak, a man's name. Lover, brother, father. She dug her nails into my back as I pressed into her. She didn't moan. She growled. Fierce. Focused. She wasn't making love. She was taking something. And I let her. We collapsed together sometime past midnight. I woke before her, staring at her face as she slept. Peaceful. Almost childlike. But I knew better. This was a lioness resting, not a lamb. I slid out of bed and checked her clothes carefully. The skirt was new. No slit this time. The blouse was unmarked. But in her handbag, tucked beneath a compact mirror, I found a flash drive. I pocketed it. By noon, my tech team decrypted it without her knowing. Contents? Confidential project files from my company, details on ongoing property disputes in Iran, hush payments, blackmail logs, even internal memos involving U.S. diplomatic lobbying. All files only accessible from my personal computer. She'd been copying my data. For how long? And how? The only answer made my gut twist. She'd gotten into my encrypted drive, the one I kept on a biometric USB that never left my study, except it did. When I let her inside, was she working for the Iranian government or someone else? I needed answers. But more than that, I needed to know if I was in love with the woman who was preparing to destroy me. That night, I confronted her, not in rage, but in silence. I called her into my private lounge, poured her a drink, and said nothing. She raised an eyebrow. "Something wrong?" I handed her the flash drive. She didn't flinch. "You left this in your purse," I said. She took it, spun it between her fingers. "Careful, Mr. Marcus. Playing dumb doesn't suit a man like you." "So tell me what it's for." She sipped her wine, her eyes never leaving mine. "Insurance," she said, "in case your type forgets who bleeds for their success." "What type is that?" "Men who erase families for land, who treat history like it's up for sale." Her voice was calm, cold. The seduction was gone. This was truth. "Who are you?" I asked. She stood, walked over, and sat on my lap like nothing was wrong. Her breath was hot against my ear. "I'm the daughter of a man you buried," she whispered, "and I've spent 8 months learning how to make you mine before I make you fall." I froze. She kissed me once, soft, almost tender, and left. And I sat there trembling, not from fear, from the realization that I was falling for the woman sent to ruin me, and maybe I wanted her to. The following days felt like walking across a frozen lake. Everything looked normal, but I could hear the cracks forming under every step. Serena continued playing the part, quiet, obedient, soft-spoken. She brought my espresso at dawn, organized the pantry by expiration date, folded my shirts with maddening precision. But something had shifted. Like we both stopped pretending, yet neither of us dared say it out loud. She knew I knew, and I knew she was waiting for me to either fall into her trap completely or try to fight my way out. But the more I tried to untangle myself, the deeper I got pulled into her web. First, it was the contracts. One morning, my assistant barged into my office, pale and shaking. The Harbor Point deal, it's collapsed. The investors pulled out overnight. What? Why? They said someone leaked internal compliance violations to the press. I felt the blood drain from my face. That project was worth $40 million, and the violations were sealed files, documents stored on the same flash drive Serena had copied. Coincidence? Not a chance. I rushed home, stormed into the kitchen, and there she was, humming softly, slicing avocados like we hadn't just lost a deal that took me 3 years to land. "You enjoying the show?" I growled. She didn't look up. "Is there something wrong with your breakfast, Mr. Marcus?" I grabbed her wrist hard. "I know what you're doing," I hissed. "I know about the flash drive. I know you're trying to dismantle my business one piece at a time." Finally, she looked at me. Her eyes didn't reflect fear. They reflected something far worse, satisfaction. "I'm not the one who built an empire on broken promises and dead fathers," she said softly. "You did that all on your own." I let go, my hand trembling. She didn't flinch, just turned back to the cutting board, resuming her slicing like nothing had happened. That night, I checked the rest of my accounts. Half my foreign assets were frozen. The board demanded an emergency meeting. My lawyers warned me of an anonymous whistleblower feeding documents to regulators in both the US and abroad. And still, I couldn't prove any of it led back to her. But I knew. Every piece fit too perfectly. Every blow landed with surgical precision. Someone was orchestrating it from inside. And I'd let her in. Worse, I still wanted her. That contradiction ate at me. Lust wrapped in fear, desire tangled with humiliation. So I did what I knew best. I tried to fight back. I sent Joseph, my security guy, to dig into her past no matter how deep. "Use everything," I said. "I want her life dissected, her contacts, family, real name, if she's even using one." But 2 days later, Joseph vanished. His apartment was ransacked. His girlfriend said he'd left for a quick job and never came back. No call, no trace. I confronted Serena that night, shaking with rage. "What did you do to Joseph?" She looked up from the fireplace where she was tending a quiet flame. "You mean your little shadow?" she asked calmly. He looked in places he shouldn't have. I felt the urge to hit something. I wanted to scream, but instead I walked away, because part of me was terrified she'd expect that, and she'd win again. Each day after that, more collapsed. The IRS opened a retroactive audit into my company finances. Old associates began to ghost me. One of my longtime clients, an Israeli diplomat, suddenly accused me of bribery. Serena watched it all unfold like it was a performance she had front row seats to, but she didn't gloat. That would have made her human. No, she observed, like a scientist watching her experiment reach its final stage. I hit rock bottom the day my CFO, David, a friend since college, resigned without warning and filed a legal motion separating his assets from mine. I called him, screamed, demanded an explanation. He only said, "Someone's coming for you, Eli, and they're smarter than you think." I poured myself whiskey that night, a full glass. No ice. Serena walked in without knocking. She wore something different. Not her usual modest blouse and headscarf, but a dark green silk robe, slit dangerously high up her thigh. Her hair down, wild, her eyes smoldering. "I thought you didn't drink," she said, sitting across from me. "I thought you were a maid," I replied bitterly. She smirked. "Taché." I watched her, silent. "You're falling apart," she whispered. "You planned every inch of this, didn't you?" She nodded once. "Of course I did. I studied you. I studied everything." "Why?" Her lips curved slowly. "Because you studied my father's company 15 years ago and buried it, along with his reputation, along with him." "Who was he?" I asked, finally voicing the question that had haunted me since the photo. She stood, walked toward me, and whispered, "Hassan Ardashir, my father. You bought the judge. You paid off the press. You called him a terrorist to seize his land. He died disgraced while you built shopping malls on bones." My chest tightened. Everything I'd done, everything I'd gotten away with, was unraveling in front of me. Not by force, but by calculation. She didn't need guns. She needed access. She needed me to want her, to trust her, to let her in. She'd turned my greatest weapon, my ego, against me, and I'd given her the key. I downed the whiskey, set the glass down, and asked her the only question left. What now? She leaned over, lips grazing my ear. Now, she whispered, you watch the last piece fall. And with that, she left the room. I didn't follow, because I knew whatever came next wasn't something I could stop. I barely slept that night. My world, once so meticulously constructed, was now a slow motion collapse, and at the center of the wreckage stood a woman I had once thought was folding my laundry. I sat in my home office, staring at the wall of framed awards, real estate accolades, and Time magazine spreads, all meaningless now. Every phone call was a threat, every email was a lawsuit, every doorbell ring made my stomach twist. But I wasn't done. Not yet. She thought I was finished. But she underestimated the man I used to be. The man who clawed his way out of Brooklyn's tenement housing with nothing but rage and an obsession with control. You don't build an empire without keeping a few dirty secrets off the grid. And you don't survive this long without learning how to bury things so even God would hesitate to dig. I called an old contact, Lev, a fixer with a gift for erasing problems. The kind of man you only call once every 10 years. He owed me a favor, and I had never collected. Until now. Her name's Serena Ardashir, I told him. Iranian, working as a domestic. She's been inside my house for 8 months, and she's not who she says she is. What do you want done? Lev asked. I want leverage. I want her roots torn up. I want to see what she bleeds when you dig deep enough. Silence, then a grunt. You'll have it in 48 hours. It should have made me feel powerful again. Instead, it felt like arming a man to hunt a ghost, with every step echoing the truth. I used to be the hunter. Now I was just exposed, and still I couldn't stop thinking about her. That night, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom at 2:11 a.m. I didn't move. I waited, listened. Then the door creaked open. She stepped inside without a word. No scarf, no robe, just her naked body, lit only by the hallway glow. Bare, beautiful, unapologetic. Her tattoo shone like ink carved by moonlight, and her expression held none of the warmth I used to imagine. Just intention. She climbed onto my bed, sat on my thighs. Her hands slid beneath the sheets like she owned every inch of me. And maybe she did. Say my name, she whispered. Serena. No, my full name. I hesitated, then said it. Serena Ardashir. She smiled. I reached up and gripped her waist. She let me. I rolled her onto her back, pressing my lips to her collarbone. I kissed the name of the man I'd destroyed. She let me do it. But in the dark, as I entered her, as she wrapped her legs around me and pulled me deeper, I knew this wasn't about pleasure. This was power. This was her way of proving that even now, even after everything, I still belonged to her. And maybe I did. When I woke, she was gone. So was my safe key. I tore through the house like a madman. My office safe was wide open. The backup drives, the ones not connected to the internet, the ones with offshore account logs, NDAs, settlement contracts, hush money records, gone. She'd taken everything. I fell to my knees. How had I missed it? When had she copied the key? When had I ever given her a moment alone in that office? But the answer was simple. The entire 8 months had been one long setup, and I had walked into it with my eyes wide open and my pants unzipped. The next morning, I got the call from Lev. We found her birth record. Born in Shiraz, 1989. Moved to Tehran after the bombing that killed her father. Bombing. That was you, wasn't it? Lev asked, but it wasn't really a question. I said nothing. Lev continued. There's more. The man who gave her the gun, he's not just some ex-spook, he's her cousin, Naveed Rami, former IRGC, yes, but now freelance. He's running ops for a shadow fund that targets corrupt Western executives for civil justice. You're not the first, but you're the highest profile. I stood there, phone clutched to my ear, swallowing the bile rising in my throat. So what do I do? Lev's voice went flat. You get ahead of it, or you disappear, because the next step isn't legal exposure, it's public. And he was right. The next day, the videos leaked. Clips of me, nude, vulnerable, desperate, taken from hidden cameras inside my own bedroom. Footage of Serena reading aloud one of my NDA contracts before tearing it in half. Emails, tax documents, off-the-record conversations, all time-stamped, authenticated, and sent to the media. The headline on the LA Times read, Real estate tycoon exposed in sex blackmail scandal, ties to Iranian operative suspected. Everything I had built destroyed in less than 48 hours. But what cut deeper than the collapse was the silence that followed. Serena was gone, vanished. Her phone disconnected, her last known location, my house. I replayed that night over and over. The way she straddled me, the way she made me whisper her father's name, the way she let me believe I had some say in how it all ended. I didn't. She didn't just ruin my reputation, she rewrote my story, and somewhere she was watching me live in the ruins, knowing she hadn't just won. She had become the final chapter, and I had no idea if she was done with me yet. Word count stopped leaving the house. The world outside had become a circus of reporters, lawyers, subpoenas, and whispers, each of them dragging my name deeper into the mud. Protesters gathered outside my gate, calling me a thief, a predator, a fraud. Half of them probably didn't even know what I did. They just knew the headline: the billionaire who got seduced by a terrorist. That's what they called her on the news. But I knew better. She wasn't a terrorist. She was a reckoning. Inside the mansion, silence reigned. My staff had quit. The house was empty, save for my own rotting thoughts and the security system I no longer trusted. I walked barefoot through my empire in ruins. Hallways once echoing with power, now haunted by the ghost of a woman who had turned my home into a battlefield. I kept expecting her to return, kept watching the cameras, waiting for her to crawl back into my bed like a final warning. But days passed, then a week, nothing, until the letter arrived. No return address, just a plain white envelope slid under my front door like a threat disguised as love. Inside, a single sheet of thick paper, handwritten in flawless black ink. You didn't remember his face. That's what hurt most. But now, you'll never forget mine. I stared at it for a long time. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from something far worse, the weight of recognition. She hadn't just broken me. She'd marked me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, the curve of her smile as she rode me into submission, the glint in her eye when she fed me my own secrets, the bruise on her arm shaped like fingers, probably from that bastard cousin of hers, or maybe someone I paid off 15 years ago. I wondered how much of her pain I had directly authored, and how many Serenas were still out there just waiting to knock on my door with soft hands and slow smiles. I poured another drink. That night I made a decision. If she thought this was over, she was wrong. I wasn't going to vanish. I wasn't going to rot in shame. She wanted me ruined, but I'd give her something she didn't expect. Resistance. I activated a private protocol I hadn't touched in a decade. Backdoor access into encrypted archives, offshore backups, and old security logs. I traced every packet of data that had left my servers during her employment. She'd been smart, too smart. Routed through proxies, wiped metadata, but she made one mistake. She uploaded the final batch of files using a hotspot, a signal that pinged off a private network outside Santa Barbara, an address tied to a shell company I once used to launder property through the Middle East. She was using my own blind spots against me. But now I had a scent. I flew out that night. Private jet. No team. Just me, my rage, and a Glock I hadn't touched since I left Brooklyn. The property was a remote cliffside villa, once used to host shady diplomats and oil magnates. I hadn't stepped foot there in years. It was abandoned, untouched. Or so I thought. The moment I entered, I knew she'd been here. Rose water in the air, a silk scarf draped over the back of a chair, my old laptop, wiped clean but still warm. And then, her voice. I thought you'd come sooner. I turned, and there she was, Serena, standing barefoot at the edge of the villa's balcony, wind in her hair, the Pacific crashing below her like an orchestra building toward the finale. She wore a black dress, barely a dress, more like a whisper of fabric clinging to skin that still made my pulse stutter. I raised the gun. She didn't flinch. You want to shoot me? She asked, almost curious. You ruined everything, I growled. My name, my company, my life. She stepped closer. You ruined families, governments, futures. I was just a mirror. You used me, she smiled. And you loved it. I lowered the gun just an inch. You could have just exposed me, I said. Why the seduction? Why make me fall for you? Her eyes shimmered. Because men like you don't hear the truth unless it's whispered from between their favorite thighs. I should have pulled the trigger. Instead, I kissed her. Violent, raw. Like we both knew this would end in blood. Her nails dug into my scalp. My hand tangled in her hair. We stumbled into the villa, knocking over furniture, ripping clothes, biting skin. We didn't make love. We made war. Afterward, we lay tangled on the cold floor, breathless, bruised. And then she said it. I didn't send everything. I looked at her. She rolled onto her side. There's a file, one last piece, something that can bury you for good or save you. Where is it? She stared into me. I'll give you a choice. Burn it with me or release it and watch the world finish what I started. I stood shaking. Why would you let me choose? Because, she whispered, I never wanted to destroy you, just make you remember. I stared down at her, heart pounding, and realized I wasn't sure which choice hurt more. She stood up first, naked, unbothered, with that maddening calm that always made her more dangerous than any weapon. Her skin still glistened with sweat and moonlight, and her voice was soft as ever, like nothing had happened, like we hadn't just torn each other apart on the floor. I've already sent the drive, she said, but I encrypted it. One final password. You decide if it gets opened. I watched her cross the room, pick up her dress, slip it on without shame or haste. You're giving me control now? I asked, disbelief seeping through every word. After all this, you're pretending I still have a choice? She turned, chin lifted. Not pretending. You always had the choice. You just chose silence, denial, and power. Now I'm forcing you to choose something else. Why? I asked. After everything you did, why give me any mercy at all? Her lips curled, not in kindness, but in bitterness. Because I needed to see if you were capable of change, or if the man who destroyed my father was the only man left inside you. I clenched my jaw, fists tightening. The room felt like it was closing in. Where's the drive? She tossed a flash drive onto the bed, a cheap plastic shell, nondescript, but the weight it carried was nuclear. It's tied to a remote server. Plug it in, enter the password. It uploads automatically. Full global drop. Every deal, every bribe, every death you orchestrated in the dark. And if I don't, she took a long breath, then it dies with me. I stared at her. What does that mean? She smiled, but this time it cracked. You're not the only one who can disappear, Eli. No, she wasn't saying. She turned toward the balcony. The wind had picked up and the waves below howled like some ancient beast waiting to swallow. You think I want to live after this? She asked, not looking at me. I've been living with ghosts my whole life. My mother died never knowing what happened to my father. I gave up everything to get close to you, to make you feel what we felt. I didn't come here for forgiveness. I came here to finish it. Serena, I said sharply, don't do this. She glanced over her shoulder, then proved to me you're not the man who turned my family into ash. She stepped up onto the edge. I moved fast, crossed the room, and grabbed her wrist. But she didn't flinch. Her voice was a whisper. You can save me, Eli, or you can save yourself. I pulled her back down, hard. She fell into me, gasping, but I didn't let go. My arms wrapped around her, my chest heaving, my throat raw with panic. I'm not letting you jump, I growled. She looked up, and for the first time since this began, I saw it. The real her. The woman beneath the vengeance, beneath the control, beneath the seduction. Broken, exhausted, human. And she wept. I held her. For a long time, we said nothing. When she finally pulled away, her voice shook. I don't want your money. I don't want your pity. I want you to own what you did. I nodded, then walked to the bed, picked up the flash drive, stared at it like it held the weight of my soul. And in that moment, I made the only real decision I'd made in years. I plugged it into my laptop. The screen blinked. Password required. I looked at her. Tell me. She whispered, Babak. Her brother's name. I typed it. Click. Upload started. Within seconds, the files raced through encrypted channels, released to journalists, courts, regulators, and every buried deal, every payout, every silence I'd bought. My world would be on fire by morning. And for the first time in my life, I welcomed it. She sat beside me, stunned. You really did it. I did. Why? I stared out at the crashing waves. Because you were right, I said. I forgot his face, but I'll never forget yours. She exhaled. Not relief, not victory, something heavier. We stayed in the villa that night. No sex, no words. Just silence between two people who'd broken each other so deeply there was no going back. By dawn, she was gone. Vanished. No note this time. No letter. No goodbye. Just the faint scent of rosewater on the pillow beside mine. 6 months later, I'm no longer Eli Marcus, CEO. I'm Eli Marcus, defendant in 9 federal investigations, author of a best-selling memoir, and speaker at corporate ethics panels. I lost the empire, the jets, the boardroom applause, but I found something else. I found a conscience. Her face still haunts me, her voice, her touch. Sometimes I wonder if she's watching, if she checks the headlines to see what I've become. I hope she does, because the world may never thank her, but I do. Every damn day. Moral of the story: sometimes the only way to kill a monster is to become its mirror. And sometimes redemption begins when the pain finally feels real enough to matter.